Welcome back to Kettlebells and Cocktails. I'm your host, John, back with my bestie, Nikki. Nikki, how are you?
I'm good. I missed you. I haven't seen you
You,
in so long.
you did. It hasn't been that long. How long's it been? It's been a
Well,
week.
it's been a week. I had last week off because I was vacationing.
Oh, that's right. Well, see, I get to edit the podcast, so I always feel like I've already seen you to some degree because I'm like sitting there editing out the C word when you drop it on our show and trying to figure out all the bad things that you said. So I
Hey,
feel like you're right in the room with me. It's great.
I only use the C word on very special occasions. You should feel honored.
I meant to tell you, so I went and edited it out of the last show. And it was really easy to edit out, but then I messed it up, and somehow I ended up with a blank space, and, like, the only word that came out was the C word, and somebody from Australia messaged me, and they said they really loved it. I thought that was great. So,
Oh my God. That's horrible. That's like the worst error that could happen when you're like, I just need to get rid of
no.
this. And then it's like, actually, I'm going to turn it up 10 decibels and play
Yeah,
it.
no,
That's
no,
long.
the Australians thought we had recorded it just for them. It's like calling someone grandma in Australia or, I don't know, abuela or love, like, one of the
Yeah.
nicest thing you can call someone.
Yeah. Well, I only use it for my closest friends and
Yeah,
in
well,
their presence. So there's that. I gotta tell you, I'm shocked that I made it to this show on time tonight because I was solo parenting.
oh,
Matt was
that'll do it.
out. Yeah, I know. Out helping a buddy move a hot tub or something stupid, and I don't even know what. And then he was like, they invited him to dinner, and he was like, "Well, I'm not gonna go because I have to like do whatever." And I'm like, "Oh, you should go. You should go. It's fine." He's like, "Nah." And then at like 7, he texted me and he was like, "Do you think I could like go grab a bite with these guys?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." But you should have seen me in my house, like, "All right, kid, shove all this food in your mouth, and then you gotta brush your teeth, and you're going to
Love
bed, and
it.
I gotta run." So shocked I made it. But I'm
I
here.
love it. I miss the
Ha-
good old days of asking permission. That's awesome.
Well, it was
Good.
silly because I was like, "Yeah, well, yeah, like, well, of course you can." Like, I'm the one that like
Yes.
leaves for like a week at a time. Like, of course you can go. Like, that's so dumb. But I think he knew because we had a show that it would be easier to have 2 hands. Anyway, it was fun.
I love it. I love it. Well, we're gonna have a fun show tonight. We got Aaliyah Miller with us. Aaliyah, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We are good. I have for everyone listening, I have followed you on Instagram for some time now, for a long time, and I followed your journey. And so this year is like the first year I've probably actually paid attention to semis and you competed, you and all your hair. And I'm like, I know her. I know I know that hair, and it was great, and I was really excited to see you out there because it's rare when I see someone competing, like, over the years, like, I've gotten to know a lot of athletes, but they were already, like, in the game, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, when you start following Noah, like, he was already a competitor, like, already known to be at the games and competing, and so
Yeah,
it's just, like, kinda one of those things, but when it's someone you feel like you already know and you don't realize they're gonna be there and they're there, it's, like, more special, so it was really special to watch you compete this year.
I appreciate that. We met each other when I was still just a normal CrossFitter laughing at memes on the internet.
Oh, wait, where did we meet?
Like the rest of us lonely folk.
Wait, where did we meet? Where did we actually meet?
I don't think we've actually met in person yet, but I
Oh,
started
okay.
following you on Instagram when you had like 200 followers.
Oh,
Right?
okay, yeah. I thought you meant we'd, like, met at an event, and I was gonna feel like a real asshole, like, I was like 'cause I
We
feel like
met
I
on
would
the
remember
interweb.
that. I feel
No,
like I
I
would
mean
remember it.
it's been years, but I don't think we've actually met in person yet.
Oh, so you're a CrossFit Trump follower. You're like,
Right.
"That's
Back
OG."
in the day.
Cool. You've seen me make all my mistakes then. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
That's good to know. Really good to know, actually.
It's endearing.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
Wow. I've absolutely made plenty of mistakes over the years, so I appreciate that you stuck with me, so thank you.
Well, I'm super excited to meet you officially and to have you on the show because I feel like so when we prepare the broadcast team prepares for any sort of live event, it's always like this insane cramming period. Remember like in college when you would like stay up all night like with flashcards and shit? So we make flashcards. I'm not kidding.
Oh my
We
gosh.
make flashcards of like every athlete. Teams are a fucking nightmare. Don't even get me started on what those like, who's who on what team and like nobody wears their numbers and everybody takes their shirts off and I'm like I don't know, it's the girl in the blue sports bra. But so we make flashcards of you guys and we have all sorts of notes and we've got some really amazing folks on CrossFit HQ staff who like do research on your stats and your lifts and your numbers, but then we're also like stalking your Instagram and figuring out what you ate for breakfast and all this other stuff. So all that to say, you had one of my favorite stories that we got to tell on the broadcast in terms of like kind of how you got into CrossFit and how you came up to become the epic athlete you are and how to get to semis. But we have such a short amount of time to tell the story. We have like 30 seconds of lane and then we got to go to whatever else is happening. So I am so excited to get more details from you about your journey in our sport and how you ended up sort of at the elite level. And I already know the highlights, but I won't give anything away. So I'll ask you kind of take us way back. Like, how'd you even get into this and what was going on in your life at the time?
Yeah. So when I was in college, I was in ROTC and I hated any form of physical activity because the physical activity I did was the PT that we had to do for ROTC. And PT in the Army is notoriously bad. It's like you're either going to run 7 miles or you're going to just do a circuit of like push ups and sit ups. And that's all we ever did. And I absolutely hated it. So I graduated in 2013 and I commissioned into the California National Guard. And I sat around for like 10 months. As we all know, the government takes forever to do anything. So I didn't end up going to my first drill with my National Guard unit until I had already been out of undergrad and commissioned for like 7 to 8 months. And then a couple months into it, I realized I'm going to have to take a PT test soon. I don't think I can pass a PT test right now, which was really sad because at the time, the PT test was 2 minutes of push ups, 2 minutes of sit ups, and a 2 mile run. I didn't have any issues with the push ups and sit ups, but the 2 mile run, I think I had 18 and a half minutes was like the maximum amount of time that I had to pass the 2 mile run. And I wasn't able to run 2 miles in 18 and a half minutes at that time.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so surprising from where you are today. But yeah, keep going, keep going.
My very first PT test when I first joined ROTC, my 2 mile run took me 23 minutes. It was
Okay.
not pretty. But so after college, I sat around, I ate a lot of Taco Bell and realizing that I was going to have to pass a PT test soon. At the time I was a tutor and a test prep teacher for the Princeton Review. And right next to the Princeton Review building, a new gym was opening. It was called Davis Strength and Conditioning in Davis, California. And they had some flyers. At the time, they were just like training the local high school football team. And I grabbed one of their flyers and forgot about it for like a month. And then it was a Thursday night and I was a little bit drunk and it was like midnight. And I remembered about the gym. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to send them an email. So I sent him an email and the guy actually responded that night at midnight. And he was like, yeah, we've got classes all day tomorrow if you want to come in. And at the time I was working full time. So the only time I was going to be able to go was 6 a.m. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to a 6 a.m. workout tomorrow. So I got a couple hours of sleep, showed up Friday morning, 6 a.m., and almost died.
No, you went through it?
I did.
Stop
I don't
it.
know why or
You
how.
weren't drunk enough. That's all that means.
Yeah,
You were
agreed.
not
Or
drunk
I was
enough.
still drunk. I don't know.
Maybe, which is sometimes even when you're young, the best workout that you're going to get that week. I remember those days. Ooh-wee.
Oh,
I
man.
I was actually thinking that you basically described every decision I've ever made in my life. I'm drunk on a Thursday night, send off an email, gotta do something Friday morning, doesn't matter what it is.
I would
Great.
love to read that email like, hey, your gym's
Hey,
cute.
Yeah. Hey, fam, what you
Hey.
doing? You up? You
You
up? You
up?
sent 'em a "you up" text. That's what it was, a "you up" text.
What if I just buy your gym?
I booty called my gym.
Yeah, right.
did.
And they were like brand new. So they were like, yes, whatever, man. When do you want to come? Do you want to come in
Yeah.
4 hours? I will open for you. When do you want to be?
Yeah. If there's
Oh,
anyone that's gonna screw you, it's a CrossFit gym. So they're like, "Yeah, come on.
come
Come
on
on
in.
in.
We
Come
ready.
on in.
Oh my
We are
gosh.
ready."
Awesome.
Well, yeah, I showed up Friday morning, it was not a pretty workout, but and I can't remember what it was. Everybody always talks about remembering their first CrossFit workout, and I couldn't tell you what mine was, but I'm pretty sure it had burpees.
Sounds right.
Always.
And I was miserable the whole time, but there was about 4 or 5 other people in the class, and they were just, like, the nicest people. I showed up and they all introduced themselves, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, we're so excited you're here." After the class was over, I was the last one to finish the workout, whatever it was, and they're all cheering for me, and after class, they were like, "It was great to meet you, will we see you again on Monday?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And I went home and I was like, "Oh man, that was really hard." But I told him I was coming up back on Monday, so I guess I have to go back on Monday. And so, like, for me to get started with it, it was really just about having the community to hold me accountable so that I would actually show up. I would leave one day and somebody would ask if I was coming tomorrow. And if I said yes, I was like, well, I already told him I'm coming, so I got to go. I can't go back on my word. So for the first, I don't know, 6 months, that was what kept me going back. And it wasn't actually a CrossFit gym, it was a strength and conditioning gym. So we mostly focused on strength, but we did kind of CrossFit style workouts.
Right.
My coach at the time, he was actually a CrossFit competitor back in like the California regional days. His goal was trying to make regionals at the time. So, like, I knew what CrossFit was, but I was also that person that was like, "CrossFit is dumb. I'm never doing that."
Oh, you're one of
Right.
those.
Yep.
Okay, okay.
But I got really into powerlifting while I was at that gym, and I actually did a powerlifting meet while I was living in California. And at the time, it was just like what really got me into it and got me going back for me instead of because I told other people I was gonna go, it was just realizing what my body is actually capable of and what my mind is capable of, and kind of understanding that the limits are further than I thought, and always trying to, like, see if I can lift more weight and, PR my back squat and all that kind of stuff. So that was what was really exciting about it for me. I started getting into a little bit of Olympic lifting while I was at that gym. So I started learning the snatch and the clean and jerk. I was totally the person that was like, "What's the difference between a snatch and a clean? Which one's which? What's power? What's hang? What's squat?" Like, I didn't know any of it, and my coach would have to explain it to me every time. But I liked the Olympic lifting, and then this was around 2016, I was getting ready to move to New Jersey for grad school, and I wanted to be able to continue Olympic lifting, but I didn't know where else to do that besides a CrossFit gym, because the gym that I was at, it wasn't CrossFit, but it was very unique and, like, probably doesn't exist a lot of places. So I knew that if I went to a CrossFit gym, I would at least be able to do Olympic lifting. So I found a CrossFit gym in New Jersey, started there in 2016, and immediately I was like, "Oh my god, this is so much fun." So I went from, CrossFit's dumb, I'm never doing that, to immediately drinking the Kool-Aid.
Where in all of this was like, did you end up taking and passing the PT test? Like, where in all of the journey in starting your kind of like fitness and sport journey does the army fall? Like in the
Yeah,
early story.
so I ended up passing my PT test,
Right.
and I actually during my time in California, I think I got down to, like, a 15-minute 2 mile
Dang.
from 23 minutes when I first joined ROTC down to 15, which was really cool. Maybe like 15:30, somewhere around there, but, like, way faster than I ever thought I would be. And the thing that I really liked, and I would tell my coach this all the time, he knew how much I hated running, but I would come and tell him about my PT tests where, I ran an even faster 2 mile than the last PT test, and the farthest I ran between the PT tests was a 400-meter in a workout.
Right. Right.
And so that was really cool that, like, I didn't even have to run to get better at running.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Um,
That's so weird to me that that happens. It happened to me this week in CrossFit, and I couldn't wrap my mind around that I'm getting better at running by doing other things. It's so
Yeah,
bizarre.
yeah, and it's cool, like, I mean, when I first started, I kind of just everything I did, I was just getting better because I went from being absolutely sedentary. I you guys talked about it on the broadcast, but I was probably very close to not very close, but I was close to 200 pounds. I was like 180, 185,
Mhm.
not in a good way. I was like 185 pounds of Taco Bell.
Yep, yep, yep.
Um,
Been
and
there. Got it.
by the time I moved to New Jersey, I think I was down to like 165 maybe. And then when I got to New Jersey, I joined the CrossFit gym and I started working with a nutrition coach for the first time. So I did a 3-month nutrition coaching program and I went from I think 165 to under 160 down into the 150s and just like learned about food honestly. At that point I had no idea what a macronutrient was. I thought, sugar was fat because sugar makes you fat. And, finding out
Listen,
sugar is
sound
actually
logic.
Yes.
Totally sound logic
A-
for what it's worth. I get it.
At, at this point, could you tell us the macros of a gordita? That's important.
I need to know for
Yes.
tomorrow's MyFitnessPal.
Yep.
A lot of fat.
Lot
More
of
It's
fat.
fat than you
always the
think.
fat.
It's
It's
always the
always the
fat.
fat. That's bullshit. Everyone bitches about carbs and how everybody I love carbs. I don't get any carbs because I need to bullshit. I could survive
It-
off fat alone. I would eat an entire jar of peanut butter before I gave a shit about eating a bagel.
Oh man.
hey,
Truly.
Bagels
let
are
me
one of
tell you
my
something.
favorite foods though.
Bagels are amazing. Let me tell you something about Taco Bell. I don't want to hate on Taco Bell. Taco Bell is the perfect American experience because you can be sitting in a Taco Bell drive-through and there'll be like $100,000 Mercedes followed by like a $5,000 Honda Civic,
Really?
followed by some drunk dude on a bicycle, followed by a couple of high school students just walking through the drive-through. Like it's
That's
the
so
most American.
valid.
It's so true. It's like it's the most American experience you can get is the Taco Bell drive-thru. Oh, and by the way, they're all drunk. All of them. Or
Wait, can I tell you something? This is
yeah, yeah, go
real.
ahead.
I have never eaten at a Taco Bell.
What?
Oh, Nikki, come
I
on,
is
never?
that am I like
Oh my
missing
gosh.
some quintessential American experience?
Only if you have GI issues. I mean, for sure.
If I want them, you mean?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, they might kill you if you have GI issues, but otherwise you'd be fine. You'd be fine.
Oh, okay. I'll be all right. I can handle it. I'm
There
like a
All
was
right.
tank.
there was a
Like a tank.
Like a tank.
Like a
In many
tank.
ways.
Your
In
girl is
many ways.
sturdy.
That's right. She's ready for some GI issues, I guess is where
Yes.
this is going. No,
Oh,
I have never had the desire. The closest I have come to a Taco Bell is when it's connected to a KFC, which I also have only eaten at like whatever in my youth as a kid.
there was about a 2-year period when I was living in California before I moved to New Jersey, where I lived literally around the corner from a Taco Bell, and I had Taco Bell like 3 to 4 times a week minimum.
what was your go-to order?
So I really liked oh man, they don't make them anymore. It was like the big burritos that they would grill. I can't remember what they're called. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
I
I do, but
don't.
I can't think of what they were called though. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Grilled burritos? I'm so
Yes.
Yeah.
here for this.
And so like a normal Taco Bell burrito is like this tiny little wimpy thing that like falls over if you hold it up.
Mm,
But
you're
they
really selling me on this Taco Bell.
Yes.
had these like massive, like Chipotle sized burritos.
Yeah.
And they would grill them after they would make them, and they were so good. And they had a steak one, and that was my favorite. But they
Okay.
stopped making that. And I was also really big on the crunch wraps.
I know what
And
those
Yes.
are. I do know what those are. I've
Yes.
seen commercials for those.
yeah, and this is not a lot of people like these, but the chicken chalupas,
Oh,
those were really good.
chalupa. I forgot about the
Yeah.
chalupas.
Yeah, they have like a deep fried tortilla. Oh my god.
Oh,
So good.
shit.
Is
Maybe I
it
really need to get in on this.
This is a true story. I knew the pandemic was some serious shit when the Taco Bell down the street from me started closing early. I'm like, "Oh, man, we are in for it."
Oh, no.
Like yeah, because they keep that thing's open all night, man. They got the drive-throughs, like, 24/7, like, just even the cops are drunk. Like, just people will drive through, just drunk people in the drive-through all night long. When they started closing, like, 9 p.m., I'm like, "Oh, man, the economy is heading south." Like, in a bad way.
There's
We're
nobody
in
to
for a
work the
recession.
Taco Bell.
Yeah,
Lord help us all.
look, you're in for a recession when people can't afford dollar tacos. I'm telling you. I
Wow,
swear to
I know
God.
what I'm
True
gonna
story.
do this weekend. I'm gonna
Go
try
to
Taco Bell for the first
take
time.
Matt to Taco Bell and then tell him he can leave the house again. Trust me on this one.
Actually, of all people who couldn't handle the GI issues that Taco Bell would bring,
It would kill Matt. Matt would
it would
literally
kill
die.
him. It would kill him. It's a good thing he doesn't listen to this show because he'd be like, "Why are you telling everyone about my GI problems?" But he doesn't listen to this podcast, so fuck that, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
supportive husband of the year.
Oh my gosh.
So
Someone's gonna tell him that I said this.
I know, we got way off on a tangent, sorry, but
Anyway,
I don't even remember where I was.
I
you
don't
were
even yeah.
doing nutrition coaching. You learned about
Yes.
Oh,
food. You
that's right.
learned about
Okay.
food for the
Yeah.
first time.
I learned
Macros
about
and
food.
macros. Yes.
Uh, yes. So yeah, so late 2016, I had joined this CrossFit gym in New Jersey, started working with a nutrition coach, started losing more weight. And then the 2017 Open came around, and I had kind of done the Open at my previous gym, but it wasn't a CrossFit gym. So it was like a scaled version of the scaled workouts. So very, very loosely did the Open in California. And then when I got to this gym in New Jersey, I started learning a lot of like the skills in CrossFit that I didn't really do a ton of when I was in California. And I was a gymnast growing up through like elementary school and middle school. So a lot of like the gymnastic stuff, it didn't necessarily come easy for me, but it came easier for me than it did for a lot of people. So by the time I did the Open in 2017, I think I finished like 750 in the Northeast region.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. And I was like, whoa,
You're like, wait a
maybe I'm
minute.
kind of okay at this.
Uh,
So that's when I was like, all right, I want to see like how good I can be at this.
yeah.
So then I was like, all right, I'm going to make regionals. Having zero concept at that time how challenging it actually was to make regionals. But I started just really focusing on that. I started working with coaches here and there, just like local coaches in the area, kind of hopped around until I found something that I liked. 2018, the Open came around and I finished, I think I was top 150 in the Northeast region. And at the time for regionals, I think it was top 20 or 25
Yeah.
qualified for
Right.
regionals.
Yep.
So significantly closer than the year before, but still a ways to go. And I was like, all right, I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Like,
Hell
another,
yeah.
another year or two, I can do this. And then the end of 2018, I found out I was getting deployed.
Ugh.
So, yeah.
Close to the dream. But also
Right.
I was just about to ask, like, in throughout all this time when you're really dedicating yourself to training, like you still have a job, right? You're
Yeah.
still you
So
still in it, girl.
I did a lot of things in this time. When I graduated from undergrad, I was pre-med in undergrad, and my original plan was to go to medical school. I applied to medical school my first year out of college and I didn't get in anywhere. At the time I was working in a research lab on campus where I did my undergrad. And just throughout the application process, I started to realize that medical school wasn't what I wanted to do. But I was enjoying what I was doing in the research lab, and my boss said I was good at it. So I was like, well, maybe I'll go to grad school instead.
Yeah.
So, and still drilling with the National Guard. So, National Guard is part time Army. So it's just once a month and then a couple weeks over the summer when we have our annual training. But I ended up applying to grad school. I got into grad school in New Jersey, and that's why I moved out there. I was in grad school for a couple years. I was in a PhD program, and about 2 years into it, I realized that I hated it
Oh
and it
shit.
wasn't what I wanted to do.
Got it, got it.
So I left with my master's degree in late 2018. And then, like, right around that time was when I found out I was getting deployed.
Mm.
So early 2019, we left for our pre-mobilization stuff. I spent a couple weeks in Texas doing, getting ready for the deployment. And then the 2019 Open, I was between 3 different countries. I spent, like, the first week in Texas, the second week in Kuwait, the third week in Qatar, just all over the place, and so I did not do the 2019 Open. That was the first Open I missed. But throughout my deployment, I had a coach back home that was giving me remote programming and remote coaching while I was deployed, but it just wasn't the same, not the same resources. There was a gym. I was deployed to Qatar, and there was a gym out in the city that I was able to get to maybe like once or twice a month when we were allowed to leave base. But I couldn't train the same that I was when I was back home, and I wasn't tracking my food because we were eating whatever the army gave us. So that was also the year that they moved the Open to October. So the 2020 Open was in October of 2019, right at the end of my deployment. I was lucky enough that my commander let me leave base for the 3, 5 weeks of the Open, however long it was at that point. And I got to go to the CrossFit gym in the city to do the open workouts, but I was nowhere near the fitness level that I was when I left for my deployment. So the 2020 Open was a little rough. Came back in December of 2019, spent a couple weeks with my parents in California, and then went back to New Jersey in January. And when I got back to New Jersey, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, started applying to some jobs, but I also went back to training. My first workout back after my deployment, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like ski erg and dumbbell something or other. It was like a 12-minute AMRAP. And if I had done that workout before my deployment, I would have been pushing like 4 or 5 rounds. And when I did it, when I came back, I got like 2 rounds,
A
and it was
rude
so,
awakening.
so rough, and I
Yeah.
sat on the floor of the gym and I cried for like 10 minutes after
Oh,
that workout
man.
because I was just so I felt like I had lost all of my progress and I was never gonna get back to where I was, and it was really disheartening. But
Ugh.
then the pandemic happened,
Oh, right, then the entire
Right.
world shut down.
and
Great
I got
timing.
a
Amazing.
lot of free time.
Right.
Right.
And I was able to collect unemployment because I had just come off active duty orders, so I qualified for unemployment. So I was like, "Well, I can at least still pay rent."
Right, right,
And nobody's hiring at this point. Like, I had started applying to jobs and all the hiring just stopped completely.
right.
So I had nothing to do except train. I was really lucky that the gym that I was at, the owner at the time was my coach, and he gave me a key to the gym and said I could train even though the gym was closed. So I got, I don't know, 8 months of training for myself at the
Yeah.
gym. For a couple months, I guess it was like a year and a half or 14 months maybe. I was activated by the New Jersey National Guard for their COVID response, but the hours were very strange. And so I still was able to get to the gym and train. And during that time, I got connected. I had a nutrition coach at the time based in Kansas. Well, actually, she's still my nutrition coach. Her name's Meredith. And she's based in Kansas. And I had been talking to her about figuring out like how to make the next jump in CrossFit. I did the 2021 Open and quarterfinals, and I finished quarterfinals 231 in North America. And that year they took top 120. So I was like, I'm close, but I'm still not there yet, and I don't know how to get there.
Mhm.
So I was talking to Meredith, and she was like, "Oh, I should connect you with Jill. She's a coach in Kansas. At the time, she was coaching Jacob Hepner and Olivia Kerstetter, and you just get on a phone call with her." And I was like, "All right, awesome." I had, sent off emails to everybody I could think of. I emailed Training Think Tank, I emailed CompTrain, I emailed Justin Kotler, like everybody trying to figure out, what do I do?
Yeah.
Because I was prepared to, pack up and move wherever because I knew I was close, but I wasn't going to get there staying where I was. And I also knew that like the clock was ticking for me because I'm 31 right now. At the time I was
Mhm.
29. Like I don't have very many more years before I'm a master's athlete.
But
Be
um
then you
careful.
clean that's when you clean up for real.
Say,
But no, it's true. I understand like you're
I
very
was
pragmatic about all this.
I was getting really nervous what she was gonna say next. She's like, "I'm
Mm.
31, and who knows? I'm gonna be dead in like a month." I'm like, I'm like 52,
Oh,
right? Come on, please.
you guys, I become a master's athlete this month.
Oh, I love
Oh
it.
my god. I'm not
So,
ready. I'm so ugh.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, if it makes you feel any better, I technically am already a master's athlete according to functional fitness.
Wait,
Um,
what?
I competed in the Masters World Championship in Aruba last year.
oh, nice.
It's 30 masters for this? Oh my god, I
Look at
want to
us.
shit my
Just
pants.
just 3 masters athletes getting together to chat. How's
Couple of fogies out
yeah.
here.
How are your knees
How
feeling?
yeah, how are your
Bad.
ankles? How are your ankles,
Awful.
everyone?
Everything hurts all
Right.
the time. I'm ready.
Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
god, my cheeks hurt. Okay, sorry.
My favorite part of all these stories are, Aaliyah, is that you're such a CrossFitter. We're like, "What was your workout?" You're like, "I don't know. I don't remember." "What was your placement?" 231, but I was only 5 points out of 230. Like,
I'm a numbers girl.
It
yeah, I
makes
don't
sense. It all makes sense.
you're like, "I don't remember what the workout was or my time. I just know I finished 231."
I just know I
Exactly.
got 2 rounds and 4 reps, and that's it.
2 rounds of what? I don't know, but it was 2
Who
rounds.
knows?
It was 2 rounds and it was heartbreaking. That's all I know. That's
Well,
all I know.
like, you were like, "Please, someone take me under your wing and show me how to elevate myself to the next level," and what happened?
Yeah, so I either didn't get responses from people or the
Who?
responses that
I
I
will
got.
find them.
Yes.
Who didn't respond?
Oh,
Rude.
man. I got some responses that were like, Training Think Tank responded and they were like, well, you can work with one of our coaches remotely. And, depending on how that goes, there might be opportunities to come out to Alpharetta and train in the future.
Got it, yeah.
But oh, by the way, there's an 8-month waiting list to work with one of our coaches, and it's like $500 a month.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And so I had a really good conversation with Justin Kotler, but at the time, Underdogs didn't exist. It was like right when he was starting it. And most of my conversation with him was more of like, how do you know if this is something worth pursuing? And like, if you like, am I wasting my time trying
Oh,
to
how
do this?
interesting.
And his response was, the people who do this, athletes and coaches, they're not in it for the money. So if you're in it for the money, like absolutely wrong place to be.
He'll
What?
tell
Wait,
Um,
you.
there's no money in CrossFit? What?
Say
I
What?
know it's shocking, right?
What? Oh,
oh, God. Well,
disillusioned.
he's the best. He'll
Yeah,
tell you how it is. He'll
Yes.
give you his time. God, he's
he was
always been great.
awesome. And
Yeah.
he was basically just like, if you love it, who am I to tell you not to do it? And if you're passionate about it, like go for it. So my nutrition coach Meredith connected me with Jill and I got on the phone with her. We had like a 30-minute conversation. She asked me, what are your strengths and weaknesses? What do you think you need to work on to, get to the next level, all that kind of stuff. And then after our conversation, she decided, she was like, let me talk to some people and I'll get back to you. She sent me an email that afternoon and she was like, hey, we'd love to have you come out for the weekend. Just kind of mini training camp. Liv was training for the games at the time and it was 2 or 3 weeks before the games. So it was kind of like her last push for the games. And Jill said, come out, spend the weekend with us, see how you like it. So I came out for the weekend, really enjoyed it, went back home to New Jersey, and Jill started giving me remote programming for like a couple weeks just to make sure that it was going to be programming that would work for me and that it was what I liked and wanted to do. Really liked her programming, started making good progress with it. and saw her at the games that was 2021. I saw her at the games and I was like, "Jill, I'm ready. I want to move to Kansas." And she was like, "All right, come out." So, end of September of 2021, I packed up all my stuff and drove to Kansas, and now I'm here.
Dang.
Nice.
Yeah. So, after, I don't know, 6 months being in Kansas, 2022 Open quarterfinals, I finished 115 in quarterfinals and qualified for my first semifinals last year. It was the most stressful 2 weeks of my life when they were finalizing
Really?
the leaderboard.
Right?
I jumped between 115 and 123, and the cut line was 120,
Oh my God.
That
and
would
I
do it.
was stressed, but finally landed at 115. I got my invite to Syndicate Crown, and I cried when I got the email. So, yeah, went to semifinals in 2022, showed up very nervous, almost I honestly felt at Syndicate like I didn't belong there, and I was like, "It's a mistake, like, I don't know how I got in here, like, all these girls are so much better than me, I don't know what I'm doing here."
Hmm.
And unfortunately, that kind of came through in my performance. I had some okay events and some not great events. I finished 22nd at Syndicate out of, I think we ended up having 29 total.
Not last.
Not
Throwing it out
last.
there. Throwing it out there.
And
Yep.
so I ended up I was in the first heat by the end of the weekend, unfortunately, but I did finish with a heat win in the first heat.
Hey.
Oh,
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question? Because
Yeah.
this is a great debate, I feel like, when people talk about the broadcast, because some people are very much like, I want to hear every name in every heat and every whatever. And some people are like, I really only tune in for the final heat because I can't watch this shit all day and I just want to know who wins. So when you enter into, when you're at a semifinal event, like a true big live competition, and you're not in the final heat, you're in an earlier heat, like, what is it like for you in that moment? Like, are you like, "Oh, why am I even in this heat? This is dumb. I'm not gonna be on the podium." Or are you like, "I am here to give my all in every test, and I gotta see where I finish. I gotta see this whole thing through." Like, what is the mindset?
Yeah, for me, even going in to the last workout in the first heat and knowing that obviously no chance of
Right.
qualifying, but I still was like, I came here to do this and I want to see how I do. Like I want to know where I'm at if I give 110% and whatever happens happens and it's information for next year.
Yeah.
I was really excited about the last workout at Syndicate. It was my favorite workout of the weekend. So, I was actually racing Rose Scott. She was in the lane next to me,
oh, row
and
the tank. We know her.
yeah,
There's
we met.
another here's me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's a tank for different reasons, Nick.
Got it. Got
Anyway, yeah.
it.
we met at Syndicate for the first time, and we kind of, like, followed each other up and down the leaderboard throughout the weekend. So, we had kind of like a little competition on our own. And so at that point, it was like, "Oh, she's catching me. I can't let her beat me." So, even though it was the first heat, I still was excited to be on the floor. At one point, the announcer made a comment that was like, I was getting ready to do my last snatch of the event because it ended with squat snatches. And he said something about, one snatch and then she closes the door on her semifinals or something like that. And I got like really emotional when I heard him say this.
Oh, for
Oh,
real?
yeah.
Yeah, just like realizing that that was my last time on the floor
Mhm.
that weekend. So yeah, I mean, I understand why not all the heats are, I mean, they're broadcasted but not like with the announcers and
Yeah.
everything.
Mhm.
And I understand why. It doesn't affect me if I'm in those heats, but I will say going into semifinals this year, one of the goals that I had was to stay in the broadcast heats the whole time.
Cool. That's wild to
Yeah.
hear. I love that. What a cool, like, way of looking at it.
Yeah. So
Cool.
I started in the first heat at Syndicate And by Saturday, I had made it into the second heat. So Saturday, I was in the broadcast heats. And
Hell
then
yeah.
Sunday, I dropped back into the first heat. And that was kind of disappointing because part of it was like my family was back home watching on YouTube and
Right.
they were like, they're not, we can't hear what they're saying. They're not talking about you and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to make sure that the people who wanted to watch me could actually see me.
That's cool.
She's
Yeah.
like her main goal is to hear Sean Woodland go, "What the fuck is she doing? Like, what is going on with her right now?" I
Sean
love it.
would never.
Sean would Sean
He
Tommy
would
might.
never. No
Sean
one else.
Tommy might.
Potentially. Chase.
Oh my
Chase
gosh.
might Chase absolutely would. Hey, what do you this is kinda on topic, but a little off. What do you think about the cuts that they just announced for the CrossFit
Oh,
Games? You got
yeah.
an opinion on cuts?
Yeah, I don't like them.
Really?
No?
And I listened to Dave Castro's Week in Review where he talked about why they do the cuts, and I can appreciate what he said, and I can appreciate where they're coming from, but, one of the comments he made was, "Every other sport cuts down the field. Why is it any different like, why wouldn't CrossFit?" And my argument for that is CrossFit already does cut down the field. That's what the open, quarterfinals, and semifinals do. You're cutting down the field. So it's like kind of like the analogy I had in my head when I heard him say that was you show up to the games and you get cut. That's almost like you show up to your, and I'm going to sound like an idiot because I don't know anything about any other sports, but like you show up to your Final Four basketball game. Is that a thing? I don't know.
That is a thing.
Sounds right to me. I
Yes,
also don't know anything
yes.
about anything. So yeah, it sounds
And
The
right. Go
the
ahead.
yes, the Final Four does exist, yes.
yeah, and so, like, you show up to the Final Four game, and they're like, "Hey, it's halftime, and you're down 100 points, so we're just ending the game. Like,
Mm,
we don't think you can make a comeback, so we're just gonna end." That's what cuts at the games feel like to me. The other thing about it is if having cuts makes the programming so much more important, and it makes the order of programming so much more important. Because if you're saying that this, 15 event weekend is a complete test of fitness and you're going to cut people before you've given them the complete test, how do you know that you're cutting the right people? And if your argument is that it was a balanced and complete test up until the cuts, then why does the rest of the test matter? So that's what frustrates me.
wow, see, I was kinda backing Dave on this one, but now you're changing my mind. Damn it. Damn it.
I I love cuts.
Do
So
you?
great. I do. I was just I was on Lauren Khalil's Death by show earlier today and she asked this question. And I'm sorry if I get hate for this. Actually, I'm not sorry, but
Bring the hate, embrace it.
Bring
I don't
bring the
mean to
hate.
offend anyone is what I'm trying to say. I love the drama from a viewer's point of view, like the extra anxiety, the extra, there are bigger stakes, like it's a better story to tell. Cuts the way that they're laid out this year, from 30 to 20, like they will give ample opportunities in the leaderboard for people to position themselves to a place where they can continue in the competition. And I think that you can have a balanced test of fitness. I agree that it's incredibly dependent on programming and like especially with like monostructural stuff or like single modality like weightlifting, you know what I mean? Like they have to be placed in the right spots in order to make a complete test of fitness. But in the same way that you can have a complete test of fitness in a 3-day weekend at regionals, semifinals, whatever we're calling them these days, I do think that you can have a complete test of fitness before and after cut lines. I do think it's possible. I just really like it from a viewer standpoint. It just creates a lot more anxiety, which is the last thing you guys need out in the field of play. I know, but just from a watching standpoint, it's like, oh dang, like who's gonna not even be here tomorrow? Like it's just a greater level of storytelling that I appreciate from a fan perspective.
Yeah,
I
I'm right in
I
the middle
yeah.
though. I'm with you. Like I get the storytelling thing, but I'm with the Leo on some of this too. Like
I
it
do
just
have
you have cut down the field already, you
yeah,
know?
and
So
the
why stop there? Why not keep cutting? You already doing
But
it. Keep on doing it.
the one other thing I'll say about it, so I feel like I'm a little bit biased when I say this because I'm an athlete who's like almost there, but not quite there yet.
Sure.
The cuts take away opportunities for the bottom half of the field and not opportunities to do a workout. That's not what I'm talking about. If you have somebody who is going to the games and they're not going to make top 20, like they know it, everybody knows it. They're not going to make top 20, but they might have some really good workouts throughout the weekend. They get cut. Sunday rolls around, and Sunday they release a workout that would have been a wheelhouse workout for this athlete. Like they could have gone and made a statement, and the world sees them, learns their name. Oh my God, this person is so
Yeah.
good. Now that athlete has lost out on the ability to showcase some of their talents on the only stage that matters in CrossFit, if we're being perfectly honest, because the games is the only competition that anybody cares about. They've lost that opportunity. That leads to lost opportunities of sponsors. And if you don't have sponsors in this sport, you can't keep competing. I'm getting to the point where I don't know if I'm going to make it through the next year because I don't have an income right now.
Mhm.
And what it does is it perpetuates only the veterans being able to make it back to the games year after year. And it makes it exponentially harder for rookies to break into the sport. So that's my thoughts on cuts.
You know what I think would be interesting because I can see both sides. I honestly don't. I don't care. I don't have an opinion, truthfully, like a huge opinion. But I understand the point of what you're saying. Like my fear is always, I think a couple of years ago when they opened the weekend with the bike event and like Noah had a pedal fall off, and I think so did Vellner, and
Pat
those are two
Vellner's
top
chin
guys,
came
right?
off.
Yeah,
Vellner
yeah.
always has a disaster on the first day.
He
And if he
Vilners
gets
it.
cut because of
Yeah,
it, like
yeah.
he has,
Well,
he has podium contention this year. He could
so
potentially win,
Oh, I think he could win big time. For real,
yeah,
for real.
but
but he's
so
going to
here's
have a
my
disaster on
He
day
just
one.
has to not Velner it so hard this year at the games.
I guess my thought is like I'd hate to see someone get cut because there was some sort of unknown element that was out of their control that blew them up. If we're going to do cuts, like an easy solution is say, all right, and Dave said this himself, there's going to be 6 events. It's plenty of time, right?
Mm.
Announce the 6 events in advance. Everybody knows up front. Here's the first 6 events. Go plan for it. Everything after that's a mystery. We're not going to tell you anything else for the rest of the weekend. The first 6 events cut you. You all know what they are in advance. Good luck. And
Yeah,
then
that
everybody can,
I could
I
get
think
behind.
people, I think most people would because then it's far more fair than going in and saying we're not going to tell you, and then you get there on day one and like, oh, by the way, it's going to be a bicycle on top of a sled or whatever craziness they make you guys do every year in the algae filled lake. No
Yeah.
shit in your pants, like
I I don't fully understand how knowing the events ahead of time would have any impact on it one way or another.
I think it gives people the opportunity to at least prepare and understand what's coming up. Like that's always the argument is this there's gonna, strong athletes for like I know I'm stammering, but at the beginning, you could have if you do all light workouts, you've got a real advantage for those athletes that are real gymnasty. And the strong people who might have had a wheelhouse workout at the end of the week aren't ever going to get to showcase that.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
So at a minimum now, you're at least telling whichever group that is, here's what's coming up. You can prepare for it. At least get ready that this is coming so they can get their mind around it. It
Yeah.
just feels more fair to me. I'm not saying it is. And again, Dave's gonna Dave. So, I got no say in this. I
Dave
got no
gonna do
say
what Dave gonna
whatsoever.
do. I guess
Yeah. And
I agree. I think the programming matters so very much.
Yeah.
Like making sure that there's stuff for the I like to call them the Hulks and the ninjas, right? Like the Hulks get to
yeah.
do their thing and the bodyweight ninjas get to do their thing and the gymnastics people get to do their thing ahead of time. Like the programming really, really matters. But to me, I don't think that knowing it ahead of time would change one way or another. But the to your point, John, the significance and the order of which the tests are given has to be balanced on either side of both cut lines for it to make sense. It's really interesting what you said about like just having a chance because there's always some random person that will like win an event and you're like,
Yeah.
I didn't know that you know what I mean? Like we're gonna James Newbury it on the bike so hard or Tim Paulson it on the bike so hard, like whatever. Like there's always that person. So that is a really interesting point about just getting your name out there and showcasing who you are and having fewer opportunities to do that over the course of the weekend. I never really thought about it that
Yeah,
way.
think of
But
like
I would
Rebecca
argue
Fuselier,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah,
you
for
know?
sure. Yep. That's a good example. But I
Yeah.
Or
would
like
argue that
Jacqueline
that's
Dahlstrom on the sandbags.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yes.
For sure. But I would argue that that is not necessarily something that perpetuates veterans because anyone could get past a cut line one way or another. You just would have to
So
be better up to that point in the competition.
yes, but the people who are going to get cut are going to be the people that just aren't at that fitness level yet. Because even in the 40 people at the games, there is a spectrum of level of fitness. And there's people who like their fitness just isn't going to allow them to get past the bottom 10 or the bottom
Right.
20.
Right.
But they're still good enough to have qualified for the games and they still have potential to excel in the sport if they are given the opportunities to continue working on excelling in the sport, which comes
Right.
from sponsorships.
But
What
their
would you think
fitness
about
level has no bearing on their rookiness. Shouldn't. It shouldn't. It does. Like, if you just look at the way that CrossFit is structured, it shouldn't, right? Like,
It
anyone can get good, anyone can excel, anyone can whatever.
yes, but if you don't already have the resources to be there, like the veterans are the ones that already have the resources to be there because they've been there. And they're the ones with the sponsors that are paying them to continue training and continue getting better. So now, like, it's already hard for a rookie to break in just because you don't have the same resources to allow you to
That's
do the things that the
interesting.
veterans get to do.
Is
And
is this argument for pro card stuff? Just wondering. Kind of sounds like it could be.
it could be, I don't know all the details on pro cards, but the little that I do know about it, like, I feel like it could kind of go in that direction.
Interesting. Interesting. I'm here
you
for it.
be an interesting solution? I was just thinking about this. It's like, so to your point, you want people to have that amazing final 2-day experience that they're losing because of cuts. So maybe you continue to do cuts, but when you cut those 20 people, you say, all right, we're going to do a different workout for those 20 that just get cut as a last chance qualifier. One person's getting in out of those 20.
Oh,
And
I
dang.
do
right?
like that a lot.
How much fun would that be? And so now you have another workout, so they have to do extra work to stay in. So it's much harder for them. So the odds of them advancing much farther is going to be hard because they got to do something for it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't
That
it doesn't have to be a 20-minute workout. It can be Fran for God's
No,
sake.
it
So
should be a death by workout. It
maybe,
should be like death by heavy ass power cleans or some bullshit like that.
yeah, maybe.
it
But I guess my point is you give them a chance to get back into the game. You could do that with each cut for that matter. If you're
yeah.
cutting, 10 people at a time, one of those 10 gets to compete against each other for a chance to stay in.
So,
I don't know.
growing up, I was a really big fan of America's Next Top Model,
Who
and
wasn't?
Of
Throwing that out
course,
there.
we all were.
Love,
I
love.
would get so excited when they would bring everybody back who got cut, and it was like a competition of the people who were still in versus the people who got cut, and one person got to come back into the competition. Like, that was always my favorite episode.
Well,
Yeah,
I
well,
love this idea. I think this is a rad idea.
it
That
it
would be really
accomplishes
cool.
what you wanna do, which is give, kinda random I don't hate to use the term lower tier, but I think that's kinda what you called it. Lower tier athletes that haven't quite achieved that upper tier yet, chance to
Yeah.
showcase their skills, get some sponsors, have a moment where they say, "Hey, look, I'm here." Recognize me and move on to the next level, and who knows, like sometimes people just get on a run. You
Yeah.
win that, you might win the next thing, and all of a sudden you find yourself in the, top 10, top 15, and that's to your point, that's a huge deal for a rookie or someone who's relatively new to the sport.
Yeah. It's huge. It's the difference between sponsors and no sponsors, and that's literally it could be career ending for people.
Well, look, I think it's a great idea. You have to tell Dave for me because I'm blocked, so he's never gonna hear it ever.
I might be blocked after this.
Maybe we both are.
Um,
Definitely.
the other idea that I was thinking about a little bit, and I saw someone comment about it on his video, would be instead of doing cuts based on like bottom X number of people, do it based on a point spread where it's like, hey, based on points, there is no way that you can even break into the top 20 at this point. So you're getting cut. And at that point, I feel like it makes it a little bit more fair than like, because I don't know. It like if you're at the cut line and it's like a 1 point difference between 20th and 21st, that is literally up to programming. Like, if it had been a different workout programmed, it could have been a 1 point difference in the other direction, you know?
I have an answer you're not gonna like to that, a
Oh boy,
rebuttal.
let's hear
It's
it.
not up to programming. It's up yeah, if it was a different workout, but it wasn't. It was that one,
Yeah.
and you had to be better.
And that's valid. That's
That's
valid.
it's just sport. It's just that's how sport works. If it were a different track, if it were a different there was a different pressure in the ball, if it was but it wasn't. That's what it was. And this
Yeah,
is where you landed.
that's
I
valid. And,
I
like,
just
and I do fully support, like, take ownership of your competition. Like, I I know that I did not go to the games this year because I didn't deserve to. I didn't do what I needed to do at semifinals to make the games. And I'm not saying it was because of the programming or because of anything. Like, I know that I just didn't do what I needed to do. Fully understand that. But it's just, it's really heartbreaking to see
mm,
somebody get cut from a 1 point difference.
yeah. No, I
I
do. I
do
agree. I agree with that for sure.
I do think there's a point if you're mathematically eliminated, they should cut you. That's no different than
Oh,
any No, seriously, that's no different than any other sport that's out there. Like, if to your point of the Final Four, if you're in a basketball team trying to make it to the finals, when you're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, they don't put you on TV anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, no one's watching other than the hardcore fans, and I understand the argument I hear from people all the time, which is, well, people, they pay for the tickets to go, and their parents are there, and their families are there, and, I'm with Nikki on this one, be fitter then. Like, if you want your family to watch you, you just need to be better, like,
right.
sorry, and
And
I'd
it's
say this is the most unfit 50-year-old ever, like,
right,
totally
right, right.
judgmental, just be fitter,
Right.
you know?
I'm saying it too, like sitting on my couch eating Cheetos, like throwing
Right.
popcorn at the TV, where like I can't even do 1/18th of what you guys are doing. But it's just I hate it from a personal standpoint because I know the athletes and I love the athletes and I feel for them when there's that sadness of like I can't continue or I just had one bad event or like whatever it may be. But I love the drama of like there just being
Yeah.
like 1 point separated or like someone you really thought was going to be like maybe even on the podium who doesn't make it into the top 20. Like it just from a excitement standpoint as a fan and, and then it allows for maybe more unique or different programming or setup or whatever toward the end of the competition when you have fewer athletes. And also from a viewership standpoint, that can be really interesting or exciting. Like there's just so many elements to it that makes me love it. But from a personal standpoint, I hate it. And from knowing how hard you guys work, I do hate that. Like there is like being human about it is really important.
Yeah. I think part of what
There's a
makes
lot
it
of it.
harder in CrossFit is our season is so limited in terms of competitions that actually matter and move you forward in the sport.
Yeah.
Like, it's just semifinals in the games. Like, that's it. And like, if you can't do something at semifinals and do something at the games, you got to wait a whole nother year.
Mhm.
And that's tough.
I think the thing that the athletes had to figure out, I know I'm all over the board on my opinions here. Everybody's like, we don't know what Wooly stands for, and I don't either.
That's fine. You're allowed
But
to
yeah,
change your opinions.
I'm changing them as we go through the show. Before
That's
I'm done,
fine.
we'll be talking about something else altogether. But I do think one thing you have to consider is the long-term health of the sport. And to Nikki's point, there's some viewership involved here. And it's very short-sighted to go, well, if I don't get to compete at the end, I'm not going to get sponsorships, right? Like it's short-sighted because what you need are people to watch and to enjoy it and to like it for those future sponsorships. You follow
Yeah.
me? Meaning like if it's a really exciting competition this year, I'm gonna watch next year and I'm gonna invite my friends to come watch with me. If it's
Mm,
boring as hell because I gotta watch 6 heats instead of 4, I'm not telling anybody about it. And that's just
that's
a fact. Like
interesting.
I was watching semis and Ash Giroux, who was on our show, she was in a movie about CrossFit, and we love her. She's so
She's
funny
great.
and super talented and very fit, and she was in the final heat, that first heat going out, and she won her heat. The final event of the day, she won it, and I'm watching it, like, cheering her on because I know Ash, and I'm looking at the crowd, and people are yawning. There's like, "Oh, this is boring as hell." Nobody knows who she is or anybody else for that matter
Yeah.
because it's the first heat of 6 or whatever it was, and people wanted to see the people that were actually gonna be on the podium. And I
Yeah.
think we've gotta get to that point of understanding that a huge part of the sport is the visual spectacle, as Dave would call it, of the games. And you have to be good enough to get to the spectacle. But we have to present the spectacle right now in order for it to grow. It's
Yeah,
really
and that's valid, and I think that also leads into the sponsorship argument that I had not even being valid anymore because the sport moves into a more professionalized arena where athletes are getting paid and they don't have to, find these random sponsorships on their
well, yeah,
own. You know, every other professional sport, the athletes get paid by the sport. Like, the NFL pays football players, the NBA pays basketball players. CrossFit doesn't pay CrossFitters.
true that. Well,
Fact.
look,
Yeah.
and to your point though, like right now, if we do what we're describing, which is let's run all 6 heats and get everybody sponsorships, your sponsorships are gonna be, I don't know, born it won't even be as good as Born Primitive. It'll be yeah, no offense, Born Primitive, I should take that back. It's gonna
You're
be
gonna be
it,
you're
it
gonna be competing for like bags of protein
it's
versus
it's
Yeah.
$100 bills. Yeah. I get what John is saying.
Yeah.
it's gonna be Barbell Voodoo who does my t-shirts, right? Like that's who you're gonna get. You want
They're my
Nike. Yeah.
sponsor.
Yeah, yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And
We love them.
I love Barbell Voodoo. Roy's my
I do
guy.
too.
Like he's getting all the shout outs now. But if you had to choose between going with Roy, who we love, and Barbell Voodoo, or you could go with Nike, let's be honest. Like any athlete's gonna go, "Hey Roy, I love you, bro, but it's Nike. Let's just do it." Like, come
Yeah,
on,
I mean,
This is Jordan's brand.
If Nike's gonna pay my rent, because I know that Roy is never gonna be able to pay my rent.
Well,
Oh,
not.
That's the
Roy.
thing.
Well, that's the point of why we need this thing to grow because you guys want the real sponsors,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and right now CrossFit has a few real sponsors, but
yeah.
they're very selective as to who they have,
It's
Yeah.
hard to break in. Yeah.
yeah, it's very
And
hard to
it's
break
like
in.
you have to be basically, you have to be like a multi-time games athlete before they'll even consider you.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to have the means to become a multi-time games athlete without sponsorships before you can even get a sponsorship.
Are you saying you gotta have money to make money?
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing.
I
Ain't that the truth, man,
I
in life?
I feel bad I derailed the entire podcast over a cuts question,
I love having this kind of healthy debate because I respect your like everyone's opinion is like totally valid and it's like making me change the way I think about my opinion, which
Yeah.
is
I mean, I
but
will
still,
say cuts definitely make more exciting storytelling. Like,
yeah.
you're not wrong about that. That is 100% a fact.
Yeah, it's wild.
I did
Even the cut
appreciate
lines
that.
at semis this year were crazy. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because of the
Yeah.
field, the depth of the field and the numbers that we were taking from every region. Like it was like there were people, real people who did not make it. And I was
Yeah.
like,
And it
dang.
was like you could be decently far down the leaderboard and still have a shot.
Yeah.
Like, I went into day 3, I think I was 22nd or 24th going into the last day, and I still had a mathematical chance of
Uh-huh.
making top 10.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and the point spread was close.
Yeah.
Yeah, huh? But then you
CrossFit's
look
an
at people who
interesting
finished
sport.
like 12th or 14th and you were like, "Eh." Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting sport though, where you can look at the open and semis and see someone's track record and get a pretty good sense of where you think they're going to finish for the most part. And that's why I like Dave's idea of cuts and why he defends them so much is that he understands the spectacle and the storytelling and that we're probably at this point of CrossFit not going to see a lot of huge surprises, but let's leave some room for error.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You could still have that year where somebody pops in that you didn't expect to
Mhm.
get on the podium. Like it wasn't that long ago, even like I know it was a decade ago, but like when Panchak came in and no one had heard of the guy in his first year, he finished fourth, like that could still happen. See, but
Mhm.
the cuts will also, it won't keep that from happening, I guess is my point.
Right, because if you really look at the math behind it, cuts have not drastically changed who winds up in the top 20.
Yeah, I mean, cuts aren't gonna change the podium, obviously, and cuts probably won't change the top 10, but I think do you guys know Fran Lung Analytics?
Yes, love.
Yeah,
Just
They're
talking to them.
great.
Yeah.
so they've posted some stuff about I can't remember what the details are, but it's like athletes who had like really impressive performances on the last day or the last workout that would have been cut if these cuts had been implemented at that year or something like that. Like
Yeah.
somebody going into the final day under top 20, like not in the top 20, but then having like a fifth place finish on the last workout or something like that. So I don't know. It's a complicated
It is
subject.
complicated. It is. It is. You're totally
Yeah.
right. And I think that the games team is getting better year over year over year, figuring out how to make it more fair, but still challenging and dramatic.
Yeah. Yeah. I would
And that
agree with
has to
that.
do with the structure of who's cut when and what time and what the programming looks like before and after. Like, I think that they are learning as they go and they're doing better each year. So I'm excited to
Yeah.
see how it shakes out, but I am equally as interested in cuts as I am heartbroken for the people that don't get to make it for every reason that you listed here, including some new ones that I'm now like really considering I hadn't before.
I appreciate the fact that Dave really looks back on the history of cuts and takes that into account and understands what it does to the competition. He takes full ownership that he knows it's controversial, but he's doing it anyway because he firmly believes it's the right thing for the sport. Like I really appreciate that about him.
Yeah.
There's no wishy washiness in his position on cuts, and I do believe just from watching that video of his that he'll take into account how it actually works and make changes if it doesn't work appropriately. And I think that's something the CrossFit has not done a good job of in the past of really looking back on what they've done and fixing the problems. They just kind of keep running headfirst into the wall. Like it's just been the last few years of some real issues with the sport. And so I do think that's something that Dave will bring that's a big change to the sport. I'm making it sound like I'm a big Dave Castro stan over here, but I'm just trying to get unblocked. That's all I'm trying to do. That's
You're
just
doing a good job.
I'm
Did
working
it.
hard on it, but damn
I
it.
believe it. I
Hey, I'll
believe
be
in you.
working at the Victory Grips booth. Come say hi and we can meet in
Are
person.
you?
Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to we'll just throw that out there, Nikki, because you'll be working, but you're welcome to join, Aaliyah. I got a salt bike invite. They're like, "Hey, do you want to come do a thing at my booth?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not." But but I feel like I owe them. So I'm gonna try to do a get together. We should do like a kettlebells and cocktails get together at the assault bike booth. I think it'd be fun.
Kettlebells and cocktails and assault bikes. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
No,
Cocktails
well,
on the assault bikes.
Yes.
that's the
Everybody
thank
throws
you.
up. Everybody throws up.
That's
So I
the
think
idea. That's the idea. We'll give away
I
patches or something and let people I don't know, we'll let them I don't know, do 20 cows and they, have to drink a Truly or something, and we'll give them a patch if they don't puke. I don't know.
Okay.
Do something fun.
Okay. As
it's
long as
like
that
a
happens,
worse
do it.
version of Beer Mile.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so much
Yes.
worse. Oh my God.
I think
Uh,
we're through Rise, we're also gonna set up an activation with Assault.
Oh, great.
So
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Look, you guys, small world. We should coordinate all of this. I'm down. I, of course, won't know my schedule until like 5 minutes before anything starts. I'm there for it if it works with my schedule.
Yeah, I don't know when it's gonna be yet, but I'll let you guys know when we figure it out.
Fun.
Yeah, I invited Aaliyah on here, Nikki, because she's a huge proponent and supporter of Rise, who we just had on the show a couple
Mhm.
episodes ago, and now we spent the whole time talking about Dave's eyebrows. So sorry, Rise. Sorry, guys. That's how we roll.
I'll just have to come
Listen,
on again.
we'll have
Yeah.
to come back. We'll have to keep talking about Rise and keep talking about all the other cool stuff that you're doing. I will say that, like, what I love about your story, Aaliyah, is that to me, you kind of, not only are you like just incredibly us because you like are doing all this epic cool shit and also like defending our nation and shit like that, like that's a big deal, but also like you very much to me represent the journey that any of us could go on. Yeah, like from being pretty sedentary to finding fitness for maybe one single solitary purpose, to being like, dang, this is really like a good motivator in my life, to being like, oh shit, how good at this could I really get? And like the struggle that you face on, well, I would say on a daily, but also like in your journey of like, where do I go? Who is my mentor? How do I get better? And to see your numbers increase year over year, and to see like just the progress you make year over year, like it's so very much a testament to our sport as a whole, to our community as a whole. And I love watching your journey, and I'm rooting for you. And I'm also like, I hope someone hears your story and takes the next step for themselves if they were wondering about taking a leap or changing
Yep.
coaches, or do I do this with my life? Like, you're a really wonderful representation of like, yeah, hell yeah. If this is what did Justin tell you, if this is what you love, like, who am I to tell you not to follow your dream? Like, that is a great message.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. And
Yeah.
one of the coolest things, after you guys told my story on the broadcast, I don't even know how many Instagram messages of people just being like, "Oh my gosh, I heard your story and it was so inspiring. I'm going through that right now. Like I
Really?
started CrossFit and I lost this much weight." And like I get chills talking about it. Like CrossFit literally changed my life. And I've said that before and I will say it forever. I was not in a good place physically, mentally, anything. And CrossFit obviously changed me physically, but it also helped me learn that I'm capable of going through hard things and being okay. It helped me learn how to do what makes me happy. You know, figuring out my own path through CrossFit has led to me figuring out my own path through life and actually figuring out what makes me happy and not just doing what I am expected to do because I was expected to stay in science because I was good at it, and I was expected to stay in the military because I was good at it. But learning that I can make decisions for myself and do things that just genuinely make me happy, and a lot of that came from CrossFit.
Love it. Just think of all the people that are going to listen to the show tonight and go, I too run a 20-minute mile and love Taco Bell. Now, and now I can make the games.
Hell
It's
yeah.
true.
Right.
It's true. I'm in all seriousness, like, if you put your heart and soul and dedication into something and you use that to figure out the perspective you need in life, like, that's what it is to me, is the perspective you had of like, this thing makes me happy. And so how do I shift my world around so that this is the thing that I get to do? And fuck the noise and the like, you should stay here or you should do this or you whatever, like that perspective on taking control of the things that you can take control of. Like that is, I feel like, the crux of the importance here.
When you make the games next year, this is my promise to you, because you're going to make next year. You're
Hell
going
yeah.
to. And when you make the games next year, we're going to do a fundraiser for you here on Kettlebells and Cocktails, and we're going to make a T-shirt that has a grilled burrito with your crazy hair on it.
I love it.
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to call it yet. We'll come up with some sort of gordita theme, something. I don't know.
Gordita.
Well, apparently since semifinals, this is now called the main.
The main.
There you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
so there was somebody actually made a hashtag
Stop
during
it.
semifinals, "Respect the mains."
Hell yeah.
So that was my semifinals hashtag.
Well, that needs to
Yeah,
be the shirt next year.
yeah, we
And
didn't even get it.
we'll put the lion's mane on the burrito.
Yeah, we didn't
Perfect.
even get into the hair secrets that obviously I need. I mean,
We need them. We need
we'll do,
them.
we'll do that next time, I guess. Well, thank you for joining, Aaliyah. Super fun
Thank you
chatting
guys
with
for
you.
having me.
And hopefully you don't get blocked by Dave. No promises, but he doesn't listen to the show, so you're probably fine. We'll
Solid.
see.
Probably right not to listen to this.
Yeah. All right, Nikki, homework for you, Nikki, since Matt is out with the boys. Send him a
Yeah.
text. I'm just swing through Taco Bell, get you a gordita. They're still open, trust me. It's
Okay.
Chalupa.
yeah,
Chalupas.
chalupa.
Chalupas. But only for myself so that he doesn't wreck himself.
Matt won't even know what it is. He's gonna think this is like a euphemism for something. He's
Oh,
gonna be so
fucking
excited.
probably.
I came home with my chalupa for you. I'm getting a chalupa. He won't even know what it is. He's gonna think it's some weird sex move you learned. He's like, no, sweetie, I just wanted a chalupa.
I
So
learned it on the podcast.
it's gonna be great. So send him a text. He'll make it happen.
Okay, deal.
All right. Well, for everyone listening, thank you for joining, and we will chat with you guys next week.